Hello everyone, welcome back to A Little Glitter. This week on A Little Glitter, we're going to be talking about core memories. My specific core memory is anxiety, so I'm going to be talking to you guys kind of some moments in my life that stick out in my brain that revolve around the emotion anxiety, and at the end I might give a few from the other emotions. So let's get started. Oh, and to spice things up a little, I'm going to be making slime while I talk, and it's going to be anxiety-themed slime. So, when I went through school, I was bullied a lot, and that definitely gave me a lot of anxiety. I'm not even gonna lie to you. At one point, I was even pulled out of school because I could not physically go into school without hyperventilating because I was just so scared of being there, really. Bullying started when I was in 5th grade, and that was the first time I had been bullied by a teacher and students. So it was very, very odd. But it was my last year at the school I was at, so I stuck it out. And that was also the year my mom got sick, so things were pretty difficult. My mom has what they call a misfire in the brain. So her brain shoots signals out and it doesn't always hit where it's supposed to go. Once I got into middle school, the bullying definitely got worse. And I began to have daily anxiety. Like every morning I'd get on the bus and have major anxiety just from being there, really. In 6th grade, I ended up having to take a few weeks off of school while they did an investigation on the bullying. The girls said they didn't do it, so they couldn't do anything about it, even though they were stealing my pencils and making it so I literally could not do my schoolwork, and I was getting in trouble for it because I didn't have any pencils. In 8th grade, my parents had to pull me out to homeschool, and then 9th grade, I had to have teachers come to the house because I was having so much anxiety. I could not cope. I ended up having to do in-home therapy because I couldn't leave the house. But then eventually that all got better. School has always been a huge anxiety inducer for me. I graduated back in 2022, and to this day I still have nightmares about going to school, which sucks, but alright, so here is the slime base. It's nice and fluffy. I added like a bunch of shaving cream to it, and now we're gonna color it. Another thing that really gives me anxiety are doctors and doctors' offices. Now, before I start, one thing I will say is I have never spoken about this publicly. I've never actually sat down and spoke about it. So this is going to be pretty long, but I feel like it's going to be very nice to be able to finally put it out there in the world because I kept it under wraps. When I talk about this, I am not going to be naming the hospital because they do great things for children, and I don't want to give them a bad rep, even though what they did to me was absolutely disgusting and awful. But it is what it is. So back in 2020, I got what my family and I believe was COVID before anyone knew what COVID was. Like nobody knew what it was. I remember going to the ER because I felt like I couldn't breathe. And the doctor was like, we keep having people come in here like this. We test them for everything. Everything's negative. We have no idea what it is. So COVID, or what we presume was COVID, left me with a lot of pain in my legs. We went up to one hospital that I'm gonna call the cop hospital. That's what I'm gonna call it, because it was in the city and it was not a very good area. You had a bunch of kids from juvie that were in there, which obviously, you know, I feel more bad for them than I am angry. So at this hospital, we told them what was going on, and they discharged me from the hospital, and I went home. They said, come back if it gets worse. So I went home, I hung out a little bit. I tried to go back to school. I went for not even half a day, and I ended up having to leave because I was in way too much pain. I was in a lot of pain. So a couple more days went by and I woke up and the pain was even worse, and I felt like the pain was so bad I couldn't walk. So my parents called my pediatrician, because I was 15 at the time, and they basically said, you need to go to the ER right away. So I did. We took the trip back to the Cobb Hospital, and basically we told them what was going on. They evaluated me, and then they told my parents to step out of the room so they could ask me questions. And if you go to the doctor and you go to the hospital, you know, like, this happens all the time. This is literally what they do. They want to make sure everything's okay at home. They just want to make sure you're not being abused or anything like that, usually, you know? So that's what I expected. So I consented and I allowed my parents to leave the room. And as soon as the door closed, they completely dropped their nice guy act and started to interrogate me like I was a criminal. They told me that I was faking, and I knew I was faking, and that there was nothing wrong with me and I was being dramatic, and continued to push me and pressure me and say that I was lying because I just didn't want to go back to school. And at this time, I was in a very small school. I had 5 kids in my entire grade, and I was thriving in that environment. I was doing great. I was doing amazing in that school, and I was so proud of myself, and I was so upset that I couldn't go back. So for someone to tell me that was like a punch in the gut, punch in the heart, and I just started crying. I asked them if they could let my parents back in. They refused. I just started screaming, so they let them back in, so that way there wasn't any attention drawn to them. After that, some of my medical anxiety started. I stopped wanting to go or allow anyone to get my parents out of the room. I wanted my parents with me 24/7, and I refused to let them leave. So after that, they sent me to physical therapy, where they let me fall on the floor multiple times on a concrete floor. And that was not fun. I ended up leaving there and my legs swelled up like 3 times their size. And at this point, I can no longer lift my legs up off of my mattress. So we decided to go to another hospital, and I originally thought this hospital was great. They diagnosed me with arthritis, and I began treatments for it. I was on steroids. I went through like 10 different medications during my time there, and during my time there, I decided to go to the ER one day because I felt like I couldn't breathe. We didn't know what it was, didn't know if it was an asthma attack, no clue what it was, but I've never been an asthmatic. So basically, the doctor comes in and she's like, okay, we're gonna send in a respiratory therapist to speak to you. We're gonna have you use an inhaler. And I had used an inhaler before, never on a regular basis, so I kind of knew what I was supposed to do. This man is literally like, okay, here's your inhaler, and he shows me how to use it. He helps me take 2 puffs, and at this point I think I'm done, because I'm like, okay, like, that's all I've ever taken, even when I've had issues. And he says, okay, well, now I need you to take 6 more puffs of this inhaler. And I literally looked at him like he was absolutely insane. I was a bit skeptical about it, but I did it anyway, because I was like, he has a medical degree, he knows best, right? So I took 2 more puffs, so 4 puffs in total. Once I reached the 4 puffs in total, I ended up shaking, like, really bad, which is a normal side effect from it, but it was so bad that the hospital bed was shaking, and you know those things are like heavy duty. So at this point, I can't get it up to my mouth, and he starts yelling at me because I'm not doing it quick enough, and I'm not doing it fast enough, and I'm not doing it well enough. So again, I still take 2 more puffs of the inhaler. This time my mom had to help me, and my mom had to literally take the inhaler and give it to me. And after 2 more puffs, so 6 in total, I started feeling lightheaded. I wasn't feeling good. I put my foot down and I said, no, I'm not taking any more. And he got upset with me. He said, well, I gotta go consult the doctor. And he got up and he left the room. A couple minutes after he left the room, the heart monitor starts screaming. My mom looks up and she says my heart rate was 260 beats per minute, which is like way over your normal heart rate. Your heart rate should never be 260 beats per minute. I felt like I was gonna pass out. She runs out, she goes to get the doctor. A nurse is coming out of the room. and he looks at my monitor and he immediately goes running for a crash cart because I didn't even look good, I guess, at that point. He goes to literally put an IV in me, and the doctor looks at him while my heart rate is still over 200 beats per minute and says, "Do not give her anything. She's fine." Let's unpack that for a second. I was in the hospital for probably a total of 8 hours, and I never received treatment for essentially the overdose. And I saw multiple doctors that confirmed that it was an overdose and that there were multiple things that they could have done in that situation, even though they told me there was nothing they could do. So after that, I was definitely pretty shaken up. I, to this day, cannot go into a hospital without freaking out. I had to get a procedure done one day, and they took me back, and I had a panic attack, and I was like trying to fight the nurses, and I was like freaking out, and I was just losing it on them, and I feel bad, but like I just immediately saw red. I came out of anesthesia. I told my mom that I thought they were gonna try to kill me again, and that it was gonna work this time. And to make matters worse, I ended up finding out that what this hospital treated me for 3 years I didn't have. We're gonna get off the depressing subject. I'm gonna talk about a couple memories that I have that are coincided with joy, because I can't just do a whole video about anxiety, guys. Come on. One joyful memory that I can think of, that I always think of, is definitely the time, and I wish I still had this video. I used to have to spend summers with my grandparents pretty much because my parents both worked, so I would stay with them until my dad got off work to come pick us up. And every summer, we would all, me, my little brother, and my cousin would hang out in the spare room. And I vividly remember we had brought hula hoops in, and we were hula hooping, and my grandma and my aunt both come in, and they're like, "Okay, like, we can hula hoop. We're gonna hula hoop, guys." So these women, these grown women, take the hula hoops. My grandma puts a hula hoop around her neck, and she's ringing that thing. She's like, my aunt, I don't even remember where, I think she had it like on her arms, and she was like hula hooping on her arms, and I still wish I had that video, because that is a memory that I don't think will ever leave my brain, because it was just, it's so happy. As you can see, I need it to focus. Come on. So this is the slime. It looks yellow on camera, but I promise it's not yellow. It's definitely orange. And of course, it isn't slime without a little glitter. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video and me just talking about my childhood trauma that caused me anxiety. If you're dealing with anxiety, just know that it isn't forever. The situation you're in, you will come out on the other end. Things may feel like they're absolutely awful, and things might feel like they're never going to be good and they're never going to be okay, but it will, I promise. So if you enjoyed and you'd like to see some more content from me every Thursday, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to also follow our TikTok, Instagram, and we also now have a Facebook page, so go ahead and check it out. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Bye!